Let us try to shed some light on this phenomenon known as the event. In the latest channeling of Quanta, they used the term apocalypse, and I have a hard time understanding what it is exactly they're referring to, other than it seems to pertain to this major shift and the major upheavals that are taking place on the planet right now. So let's try to see if they will put forward some predictions and tell us what we can more concretely expect. I found it fascinating that in a channeling in early March of Quanta, which you can find if you go back, they actually predicted that the corona situation would turn out as it has, that it would stabilize in Europe and it would run amok in the Americas, which seemed kind of far-fetched at that time. So let's see, with that in mind, if we can get some other predictions and whether they will match up with what turns out to happen. So with no further ado, here's the Intergalactic Council of Light on the topic of the event. Light and love are the essences of our guidance. We put forward to you these perspectives on what you can expect on your planet to help you and assist you, and to comfort those of you that may feel that these times are proving to contain more hardships than you think you are able to endure. Know that human beings are strong, and by strong we mean durable and full of fortitude. You are brave and courageous beings, especially when your back is facing a wall and the sun is in your eyes in front of you. It is very understandable in this situation that you should feel the need to call on us for predictions of future events. However, the phenomenon you are referring to, the event, the apocalypse, the end of days, the rebirth of mankind, total disclosure, Armageddon, whatever you may choose to call it, it is a way of describing a state of being of humankind beyond that which you know and have known as a species. This is the space you are already entering now, everything being new and strange to you. Certainly, it is true that diseases, epidemics, social upheaval, and other such phenomena are far from new in the history of your species. But what is very new is the way that these changes cause changes rapidly, and that you have created a type of externalized collective mind that you feed into and that feeds into your personal process. And this is why you must understand that the reality of a pandemic seems so harsh and total to you and can cause such great changes in your society. Even in the last of the great pandemics during the 20th century, the tallies would still arrive in central offices long after the people who had succumbed to the disease were dead. There was no keeping up with or stopping this phenomenon in real time. There was no way to step back and observe the total effect of a new type of virus unleashed on the human species. This has been new to you. The same goes for riots and demonstrations. Even in the days of extensive newspaper reporting or radio coverage, or in the early days of television, it was still not possible for the people actually participating in the protests to voice their concerns in a public forum apart from the one they were physically present in. So this new type of frenetic externalization of the human mind is at present causing you much distress, because it is expressing the inner distress of so many of the members of your species. This is but a process. Notice that with other such great upheavals, we could mention, for instance, the Second World War, it can be difficult to draw these lines of exact effect and consequence while you are in the midst of it. Certainly, there are points in time where radical things take place. Of course, the mushroom cloud over Hiroshima, or the first detonation of a nuclear bomb in the New Mexico desert, were events such as this that ripped a tiny hole in the time-space fabric and colported your species into a radically new trajectory of fate, a new timeline to be explored. Such events will also take place in this great upheaval, but you will see that the things you are undergoing now, these things are but the beginning of a wider restructuring but also falling apart of a lot of negative and unhealthy patterns that can no longer survive and be carried with you into the future if you are to become the beings that your hearts are calling out for you to be, and that you have been moving into for millennia. The process is a slow one, seen from the perspective of the human individual, but seen from the perspective of you as a collective ascended consciousness of beings, this was but a snapshot in your journey from nature into the stars of the galactic overmind. The events that will occur and we are simply offering these because we have been asked to by the channel. His mind has been circling around the date of the 17th of July, but we predict rather on the 19th of July you will see a volcanic explosion in the northern part of the Pacific Ring of Fire, close to the peninsula we believe is called Sakhalin. Now scan this information we scan from the channel's memory and predict from that this is where this eruption will take place. But this will be but a visible sign of the many changes taking place on your globe. These are not all positive, far from it, but they are indicative of the vibration of your planet and the human collective changing. You have, for instance, heard of the spontaneous death of hundreds of elephants in southern Africa. With this, they are giving you a message. The rainforest burning is not as obvious a sign of something going horribly wrong as is the death of the animal that perhaps incurs the greatest respect from human beings by its very nature and demeanor. That is the elephants, these wise, recollecting creatures, bearers of the codes of the ancient continents in their bones, knowers of the energy meridians running across your landscapes. These are checking out to ensure that you do not do so. They are providing a sacrifice to you to demonstrate that your world, your environment is suffering, and it is crying out for your positive attention. And notice when you turn your attention to these positive thoughts of a better tomorrow in harmony with the green growths of your planet, you are also benefiting the political and social misfortunes of your societies. We are not asking you to turn your attention away from these concerns, but we are advising you to reach out for a balance, and we are pointing to the fact that when you see yourself as a living, breathing, beautiful animal set on this green earth of life and abundance, you also naturally connect to a vision of you and others as human beings, as something far more and far better than what the codes of your societies have warped you into. Look for these positive images of you as a flowering, radiant, inspired and inspiring being, and see that the force that runs through you is the same force that runs through the currents of the oceans. The branches of the trees and the flowers in the field. You are not separate from this process. You are one of its most exquisite products. And Mother Gaia has pointed to you as a caretaker of her in these days, where she longs for care and health to be restored. We leave you now with the knowledge that you are loved by us and by that great infinite force which in eternity upholds you, feeds you, gives you life, caresses you, encompasses you, and ensures that you are always guided, led, and lit up by the light within you. Be well this day and all days.